For 2018, this bike was all new. Honda completely changed their philosophy on the power of the CRF250. They made it from a low to mid end bike with strong low to mid end power. Basically, they just moved all their power into the top end. Really had to ride it on the valves, wide open on the clutch to get it into the meat of the power band. For 2018, almost like a 125 where you really just had to wring it out to get up into the power, and it was really hard to get going on the bottom end. For 2019, they made a valiant effort trying to improve the bike, but still it missed the mark and placed fourth in our shootout, as I said previously. Now for 2020, Honda's made some big changes, and we're excited to dig into them and see if they've really brought back that low to mid power band and also kept the top end is what we're hoping for. And while the CRF250 engine did fall short of expectations, the MXA Wrecking Crew loved the handling and suspension, all the chassis characteristics of the Honda CRF250. We always enjoyed riding this bike, so we're really excited to see what the new engine updates will do to improve the overall bike. Along with these changes, Honda has updated the ECU just to work with the new updated engine characteristics. They also worked with the transmission. So they made second gear just a little bit taller so that you could ride in second longer and it would actually carry into third gear easier. They also coated third and fourth gear to make shifting just a little bit smoother. Honda's also updated the clutch on this bike. They made the clutch plates thicker and it has an 18% more surface volume just to make the clutch a little more durable. They also made the left side radiator just a little bit bigger, so it's not longer, and it might be hard to see if you just look at the bike from the side, but it is a little bit thicker on the top, so it's just been, the volume of the radiator has been expanded 5% just to help the bike keep a little bit cooler. Honda also updated the entire exhaust. They took the header pipe resonator off and also updated the mufflers just to work better with the low to mid-range power. Honda also dropped the battery chamber on their new CRF250. They dropped it by 28 millimeters. They said that they dropped it to lower the center of gravity and also to increase airflow going into the air filter. And the new air filter is 10% larger. Honda also used the same frame that they put on the 2019 and 2020 CRF450s. It's a new lighter aluminum perimeter frame with an aluminum swing arm. They did this to increase the yaw angle stiffness as well as retaining lateral and torsional stiffness. There's a lot of updates to the 2020 CRF250 model, so I'm going to gear up here at Fox Raceway, spin some laps on this bike, and we're also going to continue to press on the Honda technicians that are here, squeak out all the information that we can get on this bike so that we can provide you, our Motocross Action viewers, with the best information possible. Stay tuned to the rest of this video and watch me ride, and also stay tuned for feedback and our first impressions on the new 2020 CRF250. It was a good day. We put a lot of hours on the bike, did a lot of different testing with suspension, mapping, just trying to figure out all the details of the bike. We also really dug into the Honda technicians, trying to squeeze as much information as we can get out of them. So one thing that was interesting to note was that the frame and the swing arm are new to this bike, but they're also the same that were used on the 2019 and 2020 Honda 450. A couple changes that they made, they actually brought the frame in a little bit closer to the engine, took the kickstarting boss out off the 450 engine, so this allowed them to move the frame in just a little bit closer to the engine, making it a little bit more stiff, and also helping the stability of the bike and helping the feel that you get entering into the corners. With the same frame and the same swing arm as we had on the 450, one would think that our settings would be similar, but actually they're quite a bit different. For the 250, we decided to raise the forks up in the clamps. So we went from 3 millimeter showing to 5 millimeter showing. And we also raised the sag from 105 to just 100. So this put more weight on the front end, and this allowed us to keep our lean angles in the corner better. So we weren't popping up the stock settings at 105 and 3 millimeter showing at the top of the clamps. We were kind of popping up out of the corners and making some mistakes, and it wasn't impossible to get the perfect corner. When we raised the forks, dropped the front end a little bit bit lower, put more weight on it. This helped us just to rail those ruts easier. On the Honda 450, we decided to drop the forks, and this actually raised the front end, and then we ran the sag at the recommended 105 millimeters. So it was very interesting that we went two different ways, yet the bike still has the same frame and the same swing arm. So that just goes to say that, you know, the engine and the torque and the weight and all the other differences that go between a 250 and a 450 really make a huge change with chassis and settings. So with the setting changes that we made to put more weight on the front end, we had to go 2 clicks stiffer on the forks and also 2 clicks stiffer on the shock. So when you change the sag and you also raise or lower the forks and the clamps, this totally shifts the weight and the balance of the bike. We put more weight on the front end. To compensate for that, we went 2 clicks stiffer on compression on the forks and also went 2 clicks stiffer on the shock just to get that same better hold up feeling through the corners. The changes that we made, we really liked. Daryl, Ecklund, and myself are both taller, maybe a shorter, lighter rider. That might be a little too stiff, a little too harsh, and it might be a little unstable down the straightaways, but that's something that you just have to figure out if you're a shorter or lighter rider. So once we get the entire MXA wrecking crew to take a lap on this bike, race it, practice it, ride it, then we'll have a better idea for how it works with shorter and lighter riders. One change that we really liked for this new bike was the change in the transmission. So for 2020, Honda's really trying to put a big emphasis on getting more low and mid power. With that, they changed the gear ratio from a 1.8 to a 1.75. This helps us to ride second longer, and then when we get into third gear, we're already riding higher in the revs, and it's not such a big gap, so it's able to carry through faster. For the 2019 model, it was really hard shifting from second to third. It was almost like a two-stroke where you really have to like be on the clutch and really be on the RPMs to get it to work well, where with the 2020 model, it's more like a four-stroke and more like the average bike where shifting second, shifting to third, it's not as big of an issue. So we really like that update. Now let's get into the maps on this bike. The ECU was updated to work with the new engine updates that Honda made to bring out that more mid and low end power, but the maps are the same as they were last year. So going back and forth between map 1 and 3. We rode map 2 as well. To tell you the truth, we didn't notice a huge difference in the maps, and we were kind of bummed on it. On the CRF250, the 2020 model that we rode last week, there was a huge difference between the maps, and it also had traction control, so we were able to try all kinds of different options, and we liked it. We could see on the 450 where you would have different situations, whether it's muddy, slick, or fresh track in the morning or rough track in the afternoon. You could switch between the maps to really use it, where on the 250, it was hard for us to tell what was going on. So with map 1, we felt like it was just a little more crisp off the bottom, where map 3 lacked that torque right off the bottom, but it had almost a little more power through the mid-range. So we liked map 3 a little bit better, but honestly, it was such a small change that it's really hard to notice. We also talked to a few other pro riders that were here, and they kind of confirmed to us the same consensus. Also talking to the Honda technicians, we found out that the mufflers are the same as they were before. The only difference being the perf cores that are inside the mufflers. They have more holes and they're a little bit bigger, so this allows more air to flow through, which in turn should help bottom and mid-range power. Two other cool updates that they made to this bike were one of them comes in the brake pads. So Honda actually took their ATV brake pad and reshaped it into a motocross brake pad, and they did this basically just to make it more durable, and so I didn't notice any difference in the braking performance. We are excited to put more time on this bike and see how the brakes hold up. Beyond that, another good change that they made were to the foot pegs. They actually took away spikes, so there's less spikes on the foot pegs, but the spikes that they have are sharper, so this helps you just put more pressure through the foot pegs, which I'm a huge fan of. Whenever I tell somebody to do something on their bike, if they want to improve their technique, I'm always telling them put more pressure on your foot pegs. So for me, having sharp foot pegs is a huge bonus because it allows me to do that. They also took out 2 of the braces on the foot pegs. So in the 2019 model, the foot pegs had 4 braces on the inner part of the foot pegs. They took out 2 now, so now there's only 2 left. This will help make it lighter, but also allow mud and dirt just to flow through easier without getting caught up on the foot peg. We also wanted to touch on something interesting that we learned from the Honda technicians. Specs are actually different from the US to Europe. So our viewers that are watching these videos in Europe, your Honda CRF250, the 2020 model, will come without vents in the airbox, and it'll have different ECU settings as well as different mufflers. Overall, it was an awesome day here at Fox Raceway. We're super thankful for Honda for just taking care of us today and inviting us out to the 250 launch. So now we're super excited to bring this bike back, give it to multiple test riders, have them spin a few laps on our local test grounds, videos and also just compare it to the rest of our 2020 models as we get ready for our 2020 250 shootout. So stay tuned to motocrossactionmag.com for news, reviews, and bike tests, and also stay tuned to our YouTube channel. Hit the subscribe button so you can stay up to date with our latest video releases. I'm Josh Mosiman. Thanks for watching this video. Hey, wait, before you go, we have a few more videos from our 2020 250 tests. Click the thumbnails below to get caught up.